Hi there. Welcome to Apple World. So did Brian McKnight simply concede to forsaking his own children? Sorry that real love happens that way. Ryan McKnight has been getting a ton of intensity online after individuals figured out that he fundamentally discarded his children when he kicked wedded and he off another family without them. Now what? Well, Brian is attempting to safeguard himself and make sense of why he deserted his children. And you all won't really accept that the wild things he needed to say. Brian McKnight is getting simmered online for being a complete deadbeat father since he has been blamed for straight up removing his initial 3 children who turned out to be dark from his life when he met another lady and got hitched. I realize this story appears to be somewhat wild, yet tucked in there is some delicious injury to tea. Brian used to be hitched to a lady named Julie McKnight for more than 10 years, from 1990 to 2003. They had 2 children together, but Brian couldn't keep it in his genes and wound up fathering her girl with some other lady. Julie was cool about it and acknowledged the young lady Brianna into her family. However, at that point, Brian concluded that he was finished with the marriage, and he petitioned for legal separation in 2003. Well, quick forward several years, and he got remarried in 2017 to a lady named Leilani Mendoza. She previously had 2 children of her own before she met Brian, and they likewise had a child, Kiko Mateo. Tragically, he died as a child, however. At that point, they had another child recently, and they named him Brian Kanoa Makoa, or Brian Jar for short. And this is where things get hella chaotic on the grounds that Brian previously had a child named Brian Jar with his most memorable spouse, presently Brian's ex. Chanted circumstance with his initial 3 children has been happening for some time. However, it was the new birth of his new child that made individuals truly sit up and notice. And it doesn't look great at all in light of the fact that Brian doesn't recognize his children he basically imagines as they don't exist, and like I said, it took the introduction of his new child for individuals to acknowledge it. When the child was conceived, Brian took the Instagram to compose a charming note saying, "Death. Our child Brian, each time I check out at you and kiss on you, I'm feeling sentiments that I didn't realize I could have, and all excess of affection between a dad and his heritage. That can't be estimated. You see, I never was a nostalgic man, not until I met your mother and went totally gaga over her, and due to our affection for each other, I understood my actual justification for being here on this planet, and it's to be her caring, steadfast spouse, and to make that tradition of that affection my namesake. My satisfaction, my child, kid you, I vow to cherish, safeguard, show guide, and solace you the entire rest of my life, and after I'm gone, I present to you every one of my rewards for all the hard work as evident successor to deal with all of you for a long time into the future. You are my flawlessness, my child. I'm so glad to give you my name and similarly as eager to watch you satisfy it now. This would have been genuinely charming in the event that he didn't have 3 children before this yet. He made no notice of them, rather alluding to the child as his actual beneficiary. Currently, individuals believe that he was attacking his children by making it clear to them that they are not his main beneficiaries, and he believes nothing should do with them additionally. Did you all catch the part where he said that he never had an overflow of affection toward a youngster before this child was conceived? This is simply showing that he never truly cherished his more seasoned kids when they were conceived, and it sort of makes sense of why he found it simple to leave them. And when he deserted them, he didn't think back in light of the fact that in his Instagram bio he says father of Julia Jack Kiko Mateo and Brian Kanoa Makoa, and there was no notice of his organic children. And in the event that this doesn't show that he believes nothing should do with them, then I don't have the foggiest idea what really does. Likewise, Jack and Julia are his spouse's kids from a past relationship, and it simply seems as though Brian is taking his work as stepfather way more seriously than his occupation as his very own dad. He frequently spends time with his stepson, and they even go on outings abroad together. They take charming family excursion pictures together, and he even purchased his stepdaughter a brand new BMW for her last birthday. So it appears as though he is the world's best stepfather. Goodness, and I could go on and on about this post where he posted an image of Julia and composed Jules. I became a young lady father as a result of you, and I could never have requested a superior little girl. The post was unusual on the grounds that he as of now has a girl, and individuals felt like he was concealing his little girl since he put you in all covers, and that was simply extra chaotic for his child. Brian Jr., well, the main Brian Jr., has called out, Brian said in an extensive Instagram post, that he couldn't envision leaving my kids. It's hard not to envision the mind of a man who can genuinely betray his real children with his genuine blood and manifestations. It's awesome to me. I don't think there is anything going on that justifies the manner in which my dad has decided to treat my sibling, my sisters, and his grandkids, one of which is his firstborn's originally conceived child who additionally bears our name. He proceeded with it, which makes me extremely upset, yet not explicitly for myself or my kin or my kids. They don't merit this by any stretch of the imagination now, even the slightest bit, and I'm not allowing it to slide. However, there was a much greater issue here with regards to dark dads, particularly in diversion, that should be addressed. This is simply so terrible to hear in light of the fact that, again, it shows how Brian just totally removed them. I mean, he hasn't even met his grandson, who bears his name, so when he cut his children off, he cut them off totally, and he hasn't been in contact since his little girl Brianna likewise made an Instagram post about how he listened to her by cutting her off from his life. She said Daddy's daughter was never actually a thing for me. I grew up believing that the things that happened to me in my father's relationship were my shortcomings. I grew up feeling that he didn't have any desire to come visit me since he didn't cherish me. He continually puts behind different children that he would consider his own while I'm projected into a land a long way off in his subconscious. It sucks knowing that another person who's not even blood connected with you precedes you in every way. It stinks knowing that my calls need to go through a more I scarcely realize that my instant messages are perused without a reaction, and that my stepmother lets me know that they hope everything turns out great for me. She proceeded with saying that my dad hasn't called to wish me a blissful birthday in years, but I sit by the telephone each and every year, trusting that one day his heart will transform. I'm so lucky to have two siblings who are mentors to me and who commend and love me each and every day. And that will make up the time that we lost from this post. Ryan's significant other, Leilani, doesn't look so guiltless in this show either, in light of the fact that it appears as though she may be empowering his choice not to have his profile kids in his day-to-day existence while burning through a truckload of cash on her own children. I realize I've said this so often as of now, however, all these present circumstances are so insane. Well, the web has been doing what it excels at, and that has been hauling Brian from each point. There have been remarks saying Brian McKnight is deliberately dreadful and hostile towards his organic youngsters. I surmise yet to have these IG subtitles about his new spouse's developed youngsters, who aren't his and his half-dark kid being the ideal children he generally needed fiendish. Brian Light's boomer butt is via virtual entertainment, playing negligible games like a severe ex with his profile kids, and on top of this, possessing his kids. Brian McKnight reliably utilizes his stepchildren and new child with his ongoing spouse to take digs at them very off the wall since, supposing that you were cheerful in that part, you would have no need to do all that well. Brian emerged to attempt to safeguard himself, and he just made things hella more terrible. Real love is something extreme for a parent to attempt to establish with their kids, since you need to assist them as much as you with canning. And I really want to do that however much I can when I quit doing that for them. BJ was 25 and equivalents were 22, and it wasn't similar to how I totally cut them off by then. That happened a lot later. And first, this doesn't sound so terrible in light of the fact that he caused it to seem like he simply believed they should work independently and not rely upon his cash. Sounds great, right? However, it actually doesn't make sense of why he totally deserted them or imagines that as they don't exist. Removing them monetarily is one thing, yet continuing on with your own personal business without your children is no doubt the math simply ain't nothing. Likewise, it's unusual that he said he would rather not burn through cash on his children. However, he's purchasing his stepdaughter a fresh out of the plastic new BMW and making his strides on trips abroad, constantly. And we should likewise recall that these children. Subscribe Apple World for more videos.